The Los Angeles sun cast long shadows across the asphalt as Manny Pacquiao drove through familiar streets toward the Wild Card Boxing Club. It had been nearly 6 months since his last visit to the place that had shaped his career, and nostalgia tightened in his chest like an invisible opponent. The legendary Filipino boxer now lived a different life, dividing his time between political responsibilities and his family. But the memories of the ring never completely abandoned him. In his trunk, carefully wrapped, rested a gift that carried the weight of decades of shared history, a tribute to the man who had transformed a talented young fighter into a boxing legend. It wasn't just an object, but a symbol of gratitude that Manny had planned for months, consulting former training partners and family members to ensure the gesture captured the essence of the unique relationship he shared with his longtime mentor. The heavy afternoon traffic seemed to reflect the turbulence of emotions inside the former champion's heart, as he contemplated how to adequately express the impact Freddie Roach had on his life. Each red light brought back another memory. Their awkward first meeting when he could barely communicate in English, countless exhausting early morning training sessions, moments of doubt overcome by the unwavering faith his trainer had always shown. Freddie's Parkinson's disease had progressed in recent years, a reality that Manny followed with constant concern through regular visits and frequent calls. The tremors became more noticeable, especially when the trainer was tired, but he still managed to maintain most of his routines, albeit with increasing effort. What impressed most was how his tactical mind and warrior heart remained unshakable, inspiring a new generation of fighters. The familiar gym parking lot appeared before him, practically unchanged by time, as if resisting the transformations of the world around it, just like its owner. Manny parked his car and took a deep breath, preparing himself for an emotionally charged encounter, uncertain about how Freddie would react not just to his unexpected presence, but mainly to the gift that could change the life of the man who had changed his own so many years ago. The interior of Wild Card Boxing Club buzzed with the characteristic energy of a late afternoon training session, the rhythmic sound of jump ropes mixing with the impact of gloves against heavy bags. Young aspirants and hardened veterans shared the same space with mutual respect, unaware of the legend who had just entered discreetly through the back door, hoping to avoid the commotion his figure would certainly cause. Manny's experienced eyes scanned the environment, noticing small changes in the decoration. New posters of recent champions, modernized equipment, and some structural renovations, but the essence remained intact. The walls still proudly displayed numerous framed photographs that told the story of past triumphs, many of them starring himself in his moments of glory, eternalizing a partnership that had transcended the sport. In the furthest corner of the EI's gym, partially obscured by a group of training fighters, Freddie Roach meticulously supervised the technique of a promising young boxer, his concentration evident in every observation. The trainer occasionally interrupted the exercise to demonstrate a specific movement, his hands showing moderate tremors that contrasted with the precision of his technical instructions, highlighting the daily battle between mind and body that he faced with characteristic determination. Manny's presence was gradually noticed, first by an old assistant who widened his eyes in recognition, then by some veterans who interrupted their training to greet him with reverence, creating a wave of excited whispers that spread through the place like wildfire. Activity in the gym progressively diminished, the collective respect materializing in an almost sacred silence, as if time itself paused to witness the imminent reunion. Freddie initially remained absorbed in his task, oblivious to the growing commotion, until the circle of people around him opened like a curtain revealing his former pupil. Time seemed to freeze when their gazes finally met across the physical distance that separated them. Decades of shared history condensed into a moment of mutual recognition that dispensed with words, communicating more than any conversation could express. The embrace between the two men transcended social conventions, becoming a moment of genuine human connection that moved even the toughest individuals present in the gym. Freddie's tremors seemed to momentarily diminish in the comfort of the strong arms he had helped to shape, as if the physical contact offered a brief relief for his condition, while discreet tears escaped from the corners of his tired but still intensely alive eyes. After the initial greetings and Manny's introduction to the new talents under his former mentor's tutelage, the two retreated to the office at the back of the gym, a sanctuary of memories where winning strategies had been conceived and personal crises overcome over the years. The modest room remained practically identical in the Filipino's memory, with the same worn desk, aged sofa, and walls covered with newspaper clippings yellowed by time, forming an informal museum of the journey they had shared. Conversation flowed naturally between the old friends, filling the gaps left by the months since their last meeting with updates about family members, recent achievements, and challenges faced, each word reinforcing the connection that had never really broken despite their busy schedules. Freddie enthusiastically described the progress of his new pupils, his face lighting up with the same fervor he had shown decades ago when talking about the potential of a young and inexperienced Filipino fighter who could barely speak English. Manny carefully observed each movement of his former trainer, noticing how Parkinson's manifested primarily in moments of enthusiasm or fatigue, with tremors that interfered with more precise gestures, but admiring the persistence of the indomitable spirit that had always inspired his own moments of difficulty. It was evident that Freddie constantly adapted his teaching techniques to work around his physical limitations, refusing to allow the degenerative disease to diminish his effectiveness as a mentor. When the conversation naturally reached a comfortable pause, Manny discreetly mentioned that he had brought something special, a gift he hoped could adequately express his gratitude for years of guidance and unconditional friendship. Freddie's expression reflected genuine curiosity, completely unaware of the magnitude of what he was about to receive, as his former champion rose to fetch the carefully wrapped package he had left in the car. The entire gym seemed to hold its breath when Manny returned with a medium-sized rectangular package, wrapped in simple but elegant paper, carefully positioning it on the table in front of Freddie. The trainer stared at the present with a mixture of curiosity and contained emotion, his hands showing slight tremors as they began to remove the wrapping with the meticulous patience that had always characterized his technical approach to boxing. Layers of paper and protection gradually revealed a polished wooden case with silver details, finely crafted with engravings representing crucial moments in both men's careers. Each symbol etched on the surface told a story familiar only to the two men: the date of their first meeting, silhouettes of stadiums where they conquered historic titles, and motivational phrases that had become personal mantras during their years of partnership, transforming the case itself into an artwork loaded with meaning. When Freddie finally opened the lid of the case, the contents left the veteran trainer momentarily speechless, his watery eyes fixed on a framed document surrounded by miniatures of the 8 gloves from different weight categories that symbolized the titles conquered by the duo. The document, prepared by a team of lawyers and financial experts, detailed the creation of a substantial medical fund exclusively dedicated to the advanced treatment of Freddie's Parkinson's disease, with access to the most innovative procedures globally available. The silence in the office was broken only by the emotional breathing of the trainer, who tried to process the magnitude of the gesture, while Manny gently explained that the fund would ensure Freddie had access to promising experimental treatments and the best specialized medical team for the rest of his life, without financial worries. It wasn't charity, but an investment in the health of the man who had invested unconditionally in his potential when few believed. Freddie's hands reverently touched the document as if trying to confirm its reality, while tears now flowed freely down his face, wrinkled by time and experiences. The always stoic trainer, allowing himself a rare moment of vulnerability before the person he considered almost a son. The emotion in the room was palpable, transcending the trainer-athlete relationship to reflect a genuinely familiar bond forged through shared triumphs and adversities. News of Manny's generous gift spread quickly through the gym, attracting fighters, assistants, and regular attendees who gathered respectfully at the office door, silently witnessing a moment that exemplified the highest values of the sport. Among the observers, Freddie's young pupils contemplated with renewed admiration the legacy of their mentor, understanding more deeply the impact he had beyond the ropes of the ring, forming not just champions, but men of character. As they noticed the crowd that had formed, Manny and Freddie left the office to share the moment with the community that meant so much to both, each face present reflecting the positive influence the trainer had exerted throughout decades dedicated to boxing. Veterans of the sport who had passed through Wildcard Boxing Club over the years appeared spontaneously, as if summoned by an invisible force, transforming what would be a private visit into an impromptu celebration of a living legacy. In a more distant corner, a young Filipino fighter recently arrived in the United States observed the scene with reverent admiration, recognizing in the figures of Manny and Freddie the mirror of his own aspirations and the journey that was just beginning. The young man had saved for years to travel to Los Angeles, specifically to train at the legendary gym, carrying the same dream his compatriot had realized decades earlier, never imagining he would personally witness such a significant chapter of the history that had inspired him to follow the path of boxing. Noticing his young compatriot, Manny approached him with the characteristic humility that not even worldwide fame had managed to eradicate, personally introducing him to Freddie as a promising talent deserving attention. The moment carried powerful symbolism for all present, the circle completing itself, an invisible torch being passed to the next generation, perpetuating a tradition of excellence and mutual respect that transcended nationalities and individual circumstances. The following hours transformed into a spontaneous celebration at the gym, with stories being shared, technical advice generously distributed by Manny and Freddie, and the promise of new beginnings hovering in the air like a revitalizing perfume. For the trainer, the material gift received was valuable, but equally significant was the living testimony of his impact, materialized in the smiling and respectful faces surrounding him, confirming that his legacy would continue to live far beyond his current physical limitations. The next morning, Freddie woke up with a renewed sense of purpose, the weight of uncertainty about his medical future significantly relieved by his former pupil's gesture. Following his usual routine despite the challenges imposed by the disease, the trainer meticulously prepared for another day at the gym, his deliberate actions imbued with a reinvigorated determination he hadn't felt in years. The phone rang while he was having his simple breakfast, bringing surprising news from a renowned Parkinson specialist from Boston who had been contacted by the medical team assembled by Manny. The doctor explained that a promising experimental treatment would be available to Freddie in the coming weeks, with the potential to significantly reduce his symptoms and possibly slow the disease's progression, an opportunity that would have been financially inaccessible without the fund created by the former champion. Upon arriving at Wildcard Boxing Club, Freddie found Manny already present, involved in an improvised training session with the young Filipino introduced the day before, patiently demonstrating the same basic techniques that the trainer himself had taught him decades ago. The scene deeply touched the veteran instructor's heart, who silently observed for a few minutes before joining them, his hands finding moments of stability as he corrected positions and angles. 3 generations of a boxing legacy united in a moment of knowledge transmission. Manny's presence at the gym attracted considerable attention from local and specialized media, resulting in reporters and cameras documenting the historic reunion, transforming a personal gesture into an inspiring story that quickly gained national repercussion. The interviews focused not just on the generous present, but on the enduring relationship between the two men, highlighting values of loyalty, respect, and gratitude that transcended the commercial aspect frequently associated with professional boxing. As cameras captured images that would soon circulate globally, Freddie and Manny shared a private moment, observing old photographs on the office wall, remembering not just the celebrated victories, but also the difficult moments overcome together that truly forged their connection. For both, more valuable than any title conquered was the human bond developed through years of mutual trust and respect, a relationship that now found expression in a gesture that would potentially extend not just the quality, but the very duration of the trainer's life. In the following weeks, Freddie began the experimental treatment in Boston, accompanied not just by his immediate family, but also by Manny, who rearranged important political commitments to be present at the initial sessions. The specialized clinic received the trainer with the respect due to a living boxing legend, but primarily treating him as a patient with specific needs, a balance that the proud coach deeply appreciated, tired of being defined primarily by his medical condition. The first results of the treatment exceeded the doctor's initial expectations, with a gradual but noticeable reduction in Freddie's tremors and improvements in his motor coordination after a few intensive sessions. The medical team explained that the positive response was probably related to the excellent physical conditioning maintained by the trainer despite the disease, a testimony to his determination not to allow Parkinson's to completely dictate the terms of his existence. During the treatment period, Wildcard Boxing Club remained in full operation under the supervision of Freddie's longtime assistants, but with a special presence. The young Filipino fighter discovered during Manny's visit, who had quickly earned the respect of the gym veterans with his impeccable work ethic and genuine humility. In daily phone conversations, the assistants reported to the trainer the impressive progress of the young man, whose fighting style curiously combined elements reminiscent of both Manny and Freddie himself in his years as a boxer. Freddie's return to the gym after the first intensive phase of treatment was met with a spontaneous celebration organized by regular attendees, many noticing the subtle but significant improvements in his physical condition. The trainer moved with more confidence among the equipment, his voice projected with greater clarity when instructing fighters, and his eyes shone with renewed vigor as if an invisible weight had been partially removed from his shoulders by the medical intervention made possible by his ex-pupil's generosity. On a particularly significant afternoon, Freddie personally supervised a complete sparring session of the promising young Filipino, his instructions more fluid than they had been in months, allowing him to communicate technical nuances that were previously partially compromised by the disease's symptoms. Attentive observers noticed the evident satisfaction on the veteran trainer's face at the end of the session, not just for the young fighter's performance, but for his own recovered ability to transmit his knowledge with the precision that had made him legendary. 6 months after Manny's initial visit, Wildcard Boxing Club was reinvigorated by the renewed energy emanating from its owner. The experimental treatment continued producing consistent results, allowing Freddie to resume a significantly more active role in daily training. His tremors reduced to a level that rarely interfered with basic demonstrations, and his physical endurance notably improved for long days at the gym. The young Filipino introduced during Manny's visit had officially become the first fighter of the new generation to receive special attention from Freddie after the advances in his condition's treatment, progressing rapidly under the recovered master's tutelage. Sports specialists who occasionally frequented the gym commented on the exceptional potential of the young man, some even comparing him to Pacquiao himself in his early years in the United States, observations that filled the veteran trainer with a silent but evident paternal pride. The story of Manny's transformative gift had spread throughout the global boxing community, inspiring other former champions to establish similar initiatives for trainers and mentors who helped them throughout their careers. What began as a personal gesture of gratitude had transformed into an informal movement within the sport, highlighting the importance of often forgotten figures who dedicated their lives to developing talent without necessarily sharing the spotlight or substantial financial rewards. In a discreet ceremony held at Wildcard Boxing Club, the World Boxing Association presented Manny and Freddie with a special recognition award for the example of loyalty and gratitude they established, using the occasion to announce the creation of a permanent fund inspired by their story to assist veteran trainers with medical needs. The moment symbolized the transformation of an individual action into a collective legacy that would benefit future generations of boxing mentors, perpetuating values that transcended the competitive aspect of the sport. At the end of that memorable day, with the gym finally empty and silent, Freddie sat alone in his office contemplating the photographs that documented decades of a life dedicated to boxing. His hands, still showing soft but significantly more controlled tremors, gently touched the image of a young Manny after his first significant victory in the United States, a moment neither could have imagined would be just the beginning of an extraordinary journey. The veteran trainer smiled serenely, understanding that the true gift received wasn't just the medical treatment that had improved his condition, but the confirmation that his work and dedication had shaped not just a champion in the ring, but a man of exceptional character outside it, a legacy much more enduring than any title conquered. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to our channel.